Hey everyone, welcome back to part 9 of my fist only, no armor, no ranged weapons playthrough of Demon Souls, and it's time for the Armour Spider boss fight. In my first playthrough of Demon Souls, I spent a bit of time on the spider perfecting a no damage strategy. I hadn't played for a while, so I was trying to remember my strategy here, but basically it involved going up to about the midpoint here. Once the spider shoots 3 firebolts out, running to this second post here, and standing behind here until the spider fires 3 bolts up the middle of the map, after which you can then go and confront the spider head on. Unfortunately, without a shield, you do get hit by the spider's webs here. You can't avoid them. They do a little bit of damage, not much, but fortunately you're safe from firebolts after the fact, which if you get hit by the web when you're out in the middle, you can't dodge the spider's firebolts, but here you're safe from them, so being hit by the spider web's not that big of a deal. So basically what I'm doing here is standing behind this post, waiting for the spider to fire 3 firebolts up the middle of the map. It is random what the spider will do. Sometimes it will fire the 3 firebolts straight away, sometimes not, but there we go, that's 3, so now I can go out. This is where I can go out and face the spider by dodging through its swipes and waiting for it to finish doing the swipes and then collapse its front mandible thing into the ground to get in some damage. After the second collapse, it will usually spit out oil and you have to retreat to the back of the map because the oil will be turned into burning fire. From here it's just a case of waiting for the fire to die down, moving back to roughly the middle of the tunnel, and then waiting for the spider to fire 3 bolts of fire before moving back to that second post. And until it does fire the 3 bolts of fire, you really just have to dodge webs and the single homing projectile firebomb bolt that it shoots. So same thing. Now I'll be hit by spider web, but I'm safe from firebolts, and I just have to wait until it fires 3 firebolts up the middle again before I can come out and fight the spider head on. You can do this a little bit faster. There's the 3 firebolts, so now I can fight it head on. You can do this a little bit faster by running straight at the spider, but you have to be fairly confident in your ability to dodge the webs and dodge the firebolts that it fires. I wasn't really feeling confident with that. I'd rather do a safe strategy, even if it's a bit slower. It would have sucked to die here, so I didn't want to risk that. Maybe if I do a speed run or something, I would definitely do it that way, but I couldn't really remember the timing on dodging all of that, and since I'd come up with a strategy where I really hid from all of those attacks, it didn't make sense to me to try to learn the timing on dodging them in a no-death run, and that was silly there. I pressed the wrong button for some reason. Alright, so here I messed up my timing on dodging the web, and now I just am unable to dodge roll to avoid the firebombs. That's a very dangerous position to be in. My health isn't looking great, so I had to use a grass to heal up and then move back to the middle of the tunnel to try again. And it got me again. I guess that's the risk of standing in the middle. Since the spider's attacks are random, it might randomly chain just webs and a single homing missile, in which case it becomes much harder to not take damage. But I think in future runs I might prefer to dodge through all of its attacks to get close to it as fast as possible to trigger its leg swipes and avoid all these types of attacks. But either way, it's still, I don't really feel like it's dangerous to end, or potentially dangerous to end your run by standing back there. So either way, this is still a good strategy, even if you mess up your timing on dodging the webs like I did there a couple of times. One of the reasons why I chose the smithing grounds as the next world to do was because of this Armour spider fight. I feel like this is one of the less risky boss fights there is, just because I know this strategy of standing here, waiting for the triple pronged attack and then moving forward to this post for safety. Because of this, I feel like this whole fight is easily manageable, even if you make lots of mistakes. Having the regenerator ring as well compensates for a lot of the damage you get when hit by the webs while standing behind this post. And in fact, if the spider doesn't throw that many webs and does more fireball attacks, the regenerator ring will pretty much heal all damage you get from those webs. But even though it's a fairly safe and manageable boss fight, it's still a very long one with low level fist damage. Here I decided to see if you can just bolt to the second post without standing in the middle and whether or not that's fairly safe to do, and turned out it was. I also decided I was sick of being hit by webs here and that I would try to dodge to the right to avoid any of the web shots, and that works very well as well. However, I made the mistake of going back to the first post instead of the second post, and here you can take damage from the fire bolts and you can take damage from the spider. So that was just a slight mistake. Don't go to the first post. One thing's for sure, when I do this fight in the future, I will always run directly to the second post without waiting, and I will always dodge from the second post to the right when the spider shoots its webs. Though if I was doing a speed run, I probably wouldn't run to the second post. I would run directly towards the spider and dodge forward under all of its attacks. It is risky. If you get hit by a web and then 2 fireballs, it would end your speed run. But at the same time, if you don't, then you'll trigger the spider to do its leg swipes instead, which will let you put damage on its head more, or on that mandible thing, more rapidly than you can by standing behind this post. Standing behind this post wouldn't really make it a speed run, it would make it a slow run. There it was looking like the Armour spider fight might be the longest boss fight to do with a fist run like this, but it turned out to be 1 minute and 20 seconds short of the Phalanx boss fight, which went for almost 20 minutes. So not quite as long as the Phalanx boss fight, but still a long, arduous fight. Now the next section is the Tunnel City, and that leads to the Flame Lurker boss. I definitely didn't want to do Flame Lurker right now. In fact, I figured Flame Lurker might be the hardest boss in the game to do with fists. Either Flame Lurker or the Penetrator would be the hardest boss to do, I think. Probably Flame Lurker, so I didn't want to do the Tunnel City just yet. But I also didn't want to warp straight back to the Nexus to level up. What I wanted to do is have a go at fighting some of the miners here, because I remembered from my first playthrough the Iron Knuckles dropped here from one of these enemies. I thought it was the guys without picks, but I wasn't 100% sure whether or not the guys with picks could drop Iron Knuckles, or whether or not killing this guy and the other guy with the pick was a waste of time. But I decided I would farm a few of these guys here first before I left the area, just to see if I was lucky enough to get a set of Iron Knuckles to drop. And that said, I wasn't even sure if I would use them. I've never used the Iron Knuckles in the game, and not in my first playthrough. I had them drop, but I never used them in my first playthrough. So I didn't even know if they were good. I just knew they were one of only 2 possible fist weapons that I could use in this playthrough if I got them. The other one being claws. There are Hands of God, but like I said in previous parts, the Hands of God aren't fist weapons I would be able to use in this playthrough, because A, I don't like them because they're really slow and cumbersome, but B, they need some leveling up to do in other stats to wear them that I won't be doing here. I won't be putting points into anything other than strength, health, and endurance, or at least that was my plan. In any case, I wanted to see if these guys would drop the Iron Knuckles. What I didn't know, that I now know, is that the odds of Iron Knuckles dropping are extremely low. I think there's something like 1% if you're in a pure white world tendency, or I think they're higher. I think they're up to, like, depending on if you have a lot of luck, you have the providential ring on, which I just put on a moment ago, and whether or not the world's at black tendency, I think it's possible to get it up to something like 7 or 8% chance. But I believe with the state of the world at this stage of my playthrough, I probably only had about a 1% chance of Iron Knuckles dropping, which meant doing what I'm doing now was basically a complete and utter waste of time. Also, I'm not doing this very well because basically I didn't know the best way to farm these guys. In watching this back, I realised I could have just easily been parrying them. When you parry an enemy, you get iframes during the parry and counter-attack animation, which means parry one of these guys and no matter how much the other guys attack you, they can't hurt you. So I should have just been waiting and parrying the first attack, and then I could have iframed through all of the other attacks and cleaned these guys up really fast. But I didn't know that at the time. Well, I didn't think of it at the time. I should have known it at the time. I just didn't think of it. Also, the other thing I didn't know at the time is what that strange gold special effect around my body means. I had no idea, I wasn't sure what it was, but I can tell you it is the effect that lets you know you're wearing the Providential ring. So the moment I put on the Providential ring, I get this glow, and this glow indicates that I have increased my item discovery rate. When I don't have that on, when I put the Thief ring on, that's when kind of a cloudy mist appears around my body, and the cloudy mist indicates that you have the Thief ring on and you have more stealth. So different rings, or I believe also different weapons, or maybe even different armor sets, can give your character a different special effect to let you know what bonus or buff or benefit you're getting. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so this is an extremely tedious way to farm for something that has a 1% drop rate, and I wouldn't have done it had I known that at the time, but I mean, it wouldn't be quite as tedious if I was parrying them, but still, for a 1% drop rate, just really not worth the effort. I did vow not to farm in this run. I wasn't going to farm for any material mats, I wasn't going to farm for souls. I pretty much decided when I started the run that I would play through with what I get along the way. The only reason I decided to kill these guys in the hope of having the Iron Knuckles drop is the boss fights were taking such a long time that I thought, well, it wouldn't really hurt to equip a fist weapon if a fist weapon could increase the amount of damage and maybe halve the time it was taking to kill the bosses. And having only just taken 20 minutes or close to kill the armor spider, which left me right where these guys are, I thought, well, it won't hurt just to take a single run on them to see whether or not I can get the Iron Knuckles. But ultimately, really, this is just a waste of time and I would never do it again. So I lucked out on getting iron knuckles from the first mob and thought I'd proceed down the tunnel and have a go at these guys. I didn't actually know when I was doing this that iron knuckles can't drop from weapons swinging miners, which means this was going to be yet another monumental waste of time, which is especially the case with the Providential Ring On, because as soon as you go down there and hit one of them, they all turn their attention to you. You can see them all running up the tunnel towards me there. So I had to run a fair way away just to try and lure one on his own. I should have noped out at this point, but I thought, well, I'm here and I'm not going to run through the tunnels until much later in the game. Like, I was planning on leaving Flame Lurker to be one of the very final bosses that I tackle. So I thought, well, I'll persist with this and I'll just try my luck, and you never know, maybe the iron knuckles will drop from one of these guys. Which is impossible now, I know that now, but that's what I thought at the time. Yeah, so here I decided, screw this, this is going to take too long with all these weapon-wielding miners. If I wanted to farm for iron knuckles, I would be better off fighting the enemies that didn't have weapons that were at the start of that tunnel, and then refreshing at the bonfire. So I decided to go away and forget that and level up. While I was here, I decided I would level up strength, which I thought, you know, that might make killing those miners faster. So with an increase of 3 strength, I thought, what the hell, I'll go back to the tunnel city and I'll just kill those enemies at the start of the tunnel, and I'll do it with parrying to try to make it go much faster, just to see if the iron knuckles can drop and whether or not having extra strength would make the tunnel city easier, or if it would feel largely the same. I'll continue that on in the next part. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.